Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're just going to do another velocity banking review, this time with the emphasis on the first lien HELOC. Now, why am I making this? Because it ain't it, right? The first lien HELOC ain't it. And I see a lot of influencers talking about how it is it. And so what we're going to do is just kind of do the math between the first lien HELOC and then the second lien HELOC and what's the difference, okay? So, um, I've done this video many times before, so I'm very confident in what I'm talking about. And someone actually wrote this 5 months ago, or says, "So I've watched your few of your videos, and I can't disagree with your math. I am, however, unfortunately, someone that replaced their low 2.5% interest mortgage with the first lien HELOC at around 8% to help pay off a bunch of high interest debt. It's not the worst thing in the world because I am practicing velocity banking, but as you've stated multiple times in your videos, I will end up paying more interest this way. I wish I saw your videos about just getting a second lien HELOC and chunking at the mortgage, but here we are. And this is what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to refer to anybody who's replaced their low interest rate mortgage with the higher interest rate line of credit as either little Jimmy or Timmy. Why? Because back in the day, okay, in TV shows, whenever a main character was going to do something noble, okay, for for whoever, like it was like an abstract person. It's like, who are you doing this for? I'm doing this for all the little Jimmy and Timmys out there. And that's exactly why I'm making this video. For all the little Jimmys and Timmys out there who are thinking of replacing their 2.5% mortgage with a 8 to 10% line of credit, and why this may not be the most ideal situation for you. If only everybody had watched my videos before. And that's why I called this a cult, because I got to brainwash you. Okay. I am a self admitted cult leader. Anyways, all right. So let's go ahead and get started. And again, I'm not throwing shade to this gentleman because, it's unfortunate that other people mislead, which was kind of like, dang, like, you probably could have gotten a new Tesla if you had watched these videos, several of them. Okay. And so actually, let me make a modification to this budget because I noticed that the mortgage is 250,000. Let me do 2.5% and see what we get. 2.5%. And let me just modify this. So 2.5%. And what is this? This is going to be 987.80. So I can come up with loan numbers on the fly because I'm that good, right? Tooting my horn. And if you don't know who I am, okay, this is me really tooting my horn. I paid off my mortgage in 2 years and 9 months. So a lot of people are like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about with a mortgage paid off in 2 years, 9 months. So, if you want to know what you're talking about, I'll agree with you and say, hey, you're right and I'm wrong, but I'm wrong with the mortgage with paid off in 2 years and 9 months. All right. So let's get started, folks. For all the little Jimmys and Timmys out there. So, what is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy where you throw all of your money into a line of or I'm sorry, into debt with the help of something called a line of credit. But the thing is that you might hear a lot of noise on the internet about how you should move every loan, even if it's low as 2.5%, into an 8 to 10% line of credit because loan bad, line of credit good. Okay, that's what we call a first lien HELOC replacement. But is that the best way to go about things? Okay, why not? So, what we're going to do is compare a loan replacement or replacing all of your debt with the line of credit, even the high interest ones, versus using something called chunking, or just kind of wiping out debt in a certain order, pieces at a time. Okay, and so one of the, I think, most neglected topics in velocity banking, to be honest, is like the debt payoff order. And we're going to do a comparison. So when we do velocity banking, we're not saving money, but we're throwing some debt into the line of credit to increase something called our cash flow. And so what we're going to do start off with first is the first lien HELOC. Whoops, I kind of did this a little while ago. First lien HELOC, meaning you just wrap up all your debt into a line of credit, and we'll say 10%, right? Because with the I think first lien HELOCs have a higher interest rate, and very few people have 8, right? You usually get that from a credit union. I have a 7.5% interest rate on my home equity line of credit for $280,000. Take a look here, $280,000 home equity line of credit. Okay. So, all right. So, all right, so let's go ahead and go back to the Velocity Banking spreadsheet here. All right, so let's just assume we have access to a $600,000 home equity line of credit, first lien, meaning we're going to place the mortgage, we're going to place every debt, all the debt. And I think if we sum up the debt, if I did this correctly, that'll be $530,000. Okay, $530,000. So let's go ahead and move the $530,000 into that line of credit, right, at 10%. And it looks pretty good because, like, hey, all the payments go away, right? So if we're at negative 400 because we're placing all the debt, now we're at $7,400 in our cash flow. But is it really 7,400? Well, we got to take into account the interest for using the line of credit. Okay. And basically, to get the next month's balance, next month's interest, I'm sorry, next month's balance is based on the previous month's balance, previous month's interest minus our cash flow, which looks good. And then what we got to do is take the average daily balance, multiply by the interest rate, which will be 0.1, and then divide by 12. Okay. And so if you take a look here in the first month, that's $4,000 of interest, right? So, you don't really, I mean, at least it's positive, right? So negative 400 to about really, $3,000 is it's going to go down about. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste, right? Paycheck in, expenses out, paycheck in, expenses out, right? Copy and paste. And then I'm going to do this. Okay. And we'll see how long it takes for us to pay off that line of credit. And then we see that in about 109 months, right? So let's go ahead and sum it up. We're going to pay, so 109 months, 272K. So I don't know if you see that. Let me zoom in. $272,000 of interest. I just kind of summed it up. So let's go ahead and hold on. Can I copy? No. Let me go ahead, do this. All right. So now let's go ahead and record this, this is how much we pay, how long it takes, and how much we pay in interest. Okay. And all right, so let me go ahead, and I'm going to now do the second lien HELOC, which means that we just have a free and clear, no, not a free, yeah, a free and clear line of credit, but we leave the mortgage intact. So that's what we're going to compare. So when we replaced all of our debt, including our 2.5% interest rate mortgage, we paid about $272,000 of interest. Okay. So let's go ahead and restart this, and I'm going to. So do we need 600,000? Probably not. We'll just say 200,000 in this instance. Okay. And then now let's just kind of do it in small chunks, right? So this is where I'll say debt payoff order is incredibly important. And the easiest way to figure out how to pay off the debt is by using something called the cash flow index. So what is that? Okay. Well, basically, it's just a simple formula where you take the balance of the debt and divide by the minimum payment or the monthly payment, right? And so this gives you a number where you could just rank the debts, and the lower the number, that's the one you want to pay off, right? So you see all these 20s and 30s right here. So it's not a coincidence that these are the high interest rate credit cards. And then we tackle on the credit cards first and then the amortized loans. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. $167,000 here. So I'm just going to move $167,000. Okay. And then what's our cash flow? Yeah, well, we just kind of put zeros on the credit card. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then, okay. So now let's do this, which is $4,000 of cash flow. So now I got to replace this 4893.82. And then I just got to copy and paste and see how long it takes us to pay it off. And then we see that in 41 months, right? 41 months, it pays off. So let me write that down. Oh, I can't even spell months. It looks like a kind of Finnish name, right? I don't know anything about Finland, but every time I've seen a Finnish name on the map, it doesn't it sounds really weird, right? Excuse me. All right, so now let's go ahead and do this and see how much interest we paid on the credit cards. Whoops, where do we go? Like, how did I get all the way over here? All right, so let me go back. All right, so now, let me go ahead and sum it up. And then that's 29.1 grand, 29.1 grand. So let me just kind of write that here. So it took us 41 months to pay 29.1 K of interest. And this is interest. We're only recording interest, right? Because that's what we care about. Time pay. We have to pay our debt, but we want to minimize the interest, okay? So now let's take a look at this. So we got the personal loan, the auto loan, and we are at 41 months. So let's go into the loan calculator right here. And then I'm going to do 41, 41, 41, 41. We're at month 41. Okay. We have the interest that we paid so far. And then here you see that if I sum it up, it actually comes to 13 grand. So 13 grand. So what we're going to do is move the 13 grand into that line of credit. So I think that would be, hold on, let me copy and paste this. Right. All right. So now let's go ahead and move that here. And then this is going to be plus 13804.32. And then now, okay, we move those two loans. And this is going to be 0, auto and personal, based on that low cash flow index right here. See 34 and 18, right? So we'll just get rid of those. Again, it's based on the current balance divided by the monthly payment, and it's like a ranking system. So let's go ahead and get rid of them. And then, all right, so now where am I? I don't know where I am. I think that's what I used to say as a child in Disneyland. Maybe not. All right, so now 5,000 in cash flow. All right, so let's go ahead and update this number. All right, so now this is going to be 5483.63. Okay. All right, so now what we got to do is calculate the interest from here to here, basically. So it's like $100, 100 something bucks. So let me do this, and it equals sum. What column is H43 to H45? Okay, so about 105 bucks, right? 105 bucks. Okay, so 105, but we have to also calculate the amount of interest we paid so far. So we just kind of combine these with 105, right? Actually, let me do this, 105. So about 5 grand, 5 grand. So interest we paid so far. So 5 grand plus $105. So 100. So it's about 5,100 plus another 100. We'll say 5,200. Okay, 5,200 interest. Okay, 5.2K of interest, and then right. What am okay? So now it's auto and then personal loans. Right, 5,200 of interest. And how long did it take us to pay those off? This is going to take 2 more months, so 43 months, right? So, and then to be 43 months. Okay, all right, so give me 1 second, and then now we got to figure out the other. What are we looking for? Okay, the only thing left is, or actually 2 things left, the student loan and the mortgage. Okay, student loan and the mortgage. And then so now let's go and attack these debts. So we're at 43 months, right? So this is 0, 43, 43. Okay, so all right. So now what we're going to do is, because there's an interest rate difference between the loan and the line of credit. Okay, the loan and the line of credit. And okay, how should I say this? The line of credit is at 10. And the bigger the gap between the loan and the line of credit interest rate, as well as the higher this number is, you don't want to move the loan into the line of credit. And that's why we're kind of focusing on the 30-year mortgage. This big number means that, hey, you pay a lot of money for this itty bitty monthly cash flow, right? To pay it off, you have to pay off $229,000 to get $987 of cash flow back in your life. But in this one, you only pay $57,000 to get about almost the same, 928. So it makes sense to pay the lower one off, right? And so if there's an interest rate difference, and this number is very bigly or high, okay, we use what we call the chunking method. And luckily we have this velocity banking calculator to calculate the chunking method. Let's go ahead and do this. So 80,000, what's the current balance? It's 57484.75, 57484.75. And then the interest rate is 7% for 10 years. And then 928.87, 928.87. And then the monthly income is 10 grand. And the expenses is everything except for the one we're trying to pay off. So it'll be these two. So let's go ahead and copy that. All right. And then it's 3587.5. So it'll be 3587.5. And this is going to be 10000, right? And then we're going to chunk $10,000, and then we'll see that we only pay about 1.6 grand of interest in 0.8 years. Okay, so 1.6 grand, and it's technically not just 1.6, it's 1.6 grand plus this. So let me do this. So we'll say 1600, and then what's J4 plus K4? J4 plus K4. Okay, 19 grand. Okay, 19 grand. So let me go back here. And then this is going to be student loan. So 19K of interest. And then how many months? It's like 0.8 plus 43. So 43 plus 0.8 times 12. So we'll say 53 months. So about 10 months. And then we're going to do the same for the mortgage, okay? We're going to do the same for the mortgage. And then the mortgage. So this is 0. And then now where are we? We are at 53 months. 53 months. 53. All right. Okay. And then now let's put in the details. So this is going to be 250,000 at 2.5%. 250,000 at 2.5%, 30 years. Okay. And then what's the 987.8, 987.8, and then this is going to be 223,861.32, 223,861.32. Okay. And then now this is going to be, what's the expenses? It is 2,600. All right. So 2,600, and then 2.7 years and 8.6 grand. Okay. So now let's go here, and then 2,600. Okay. And so that's going to be 28.8 grand of interest. All right. So now the mortgage is 28.8K of interest. And then let me just go here. 2.7 years. So 2.7 years. So it's 2.7 times 12 plus 53. So 86 months, we'll say. Okay. So 86 months. Okay. So now let's tally up the interest. 29.1, 5.2, 19, 28.8. And let's sum up the interest, which is 82.1K versus 272K. And how much time? So it's 109 divided by 12. So that's going to be 9.08 years. And then this one is going to be 86 divided by 12. So 7.16 years. Whoa. All right. So, how much is this? Okay, so let's see the difference, right? And maybe I should just put this one here. Okay. So the difference, and then I'll put this column as the difference, right? Or maybe not. All right, difference. There we go. All right, so the difference is, so 272 minus 82.1, which is 189.9K. Folks, you could buy probably 4 Teslas with that. 4 Teslas. Now, if you want to be generous and give that much to the bank, just give like 20 grand to me. You know what I'm saying? And then also in terms of time, so 9.08 minus 7.16 is about 2 years, almost two. I think what, one and 1 year, and I think, how much is 92? I don't even know. I can't even do math. Less than 2 years. Okay. So if you want to pay 180, so it doesn't really matter to me the time. I don't think 2 years is really that big of a deal, but it's the 189.8 thousand. Yikes. Yikes. Okay. So again, I'd rather just use a second lien HELOC, and then, hey, I got a first lien HELOC. You see this $280,000 line of credit? It's a first lien HELOC, okay? But that's because I paid off my mortgage first and then I got the line of credit, okay? All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. So the title of the video is "The First Lien HELOC Really Ain't It." Okay, you don't want to replace your entire debt with the mortgage just because, unless you for some reason have to, because you're just throwing money on the table, right? 189,000. That ain't small, folks. That ain't small. Okay, so if you made it to the end of this video, here's how I know you made it to the end. Type in the comments for little Jimmy, okay? Because that's who this video is for little Jimmy. All right. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you on the next video. This is Karina Atlanta Mentorship.